Where does coffee come from? Just like the question you're asking. You have never seen a coffee tree. You are here, we shall ensure that you see a coffee tree. Right. So you are in Germany, in Brussels, in wherever, in London or in New York, and you are taking coffee and you ask yourself, where is this thing coming from? Then you find somebody who gives you a story about coffee. Tells you coffee is a commodity that is grown in Africa or in South America or wherever. Coffee grows as a fruit. Coffee matures after 36 weeks, which is 9 months. Coffee, once it matures, it is picked from trees. It's taken to a system where the skin is removed, it's washed, it's dried, is taken to a system which they call milling. The hard skin is removed, and then it is roasted, and then is crushed, is pounded, okay? And it becomes very good to drink. It's a beverage, okay? Then you say, I want to know more about it. So by you trying to know more about it, you even go to the source. When you come to the source, you get shocked. You find they are picking coffee in the rain. The cup that you are buying so much out there, in such a clean environment, you find women picking it. Women with their children on their backs picking it. It's raining and they are covering themselves with pouring paper. What do you even feel? You see, you feel bad. My name is Peter Mburu. I am now about 63 years old. Born just about the time that emergency in this country ended. My parents happened then to be working in the coffee plantations. We are now born and we are living in the estate, okay? And my father continues now working and is married. The wife is here doing the work in the farms, picking coffee and hard weeding. That is what my mother was doing. Among, of course, other women, when their husbands were also doing the same, they are working as planting coffee, picking coffee, pruning the coffee, washing it in the factory, drying, and therefore so taking it to the mill. That's the kind of work that these people did. It is not anything I want to imagine that they were ever compensated. I don't think it happened. And those years, like if I remember when my father was working, even the fear of going for permission was there. They were literally intimidated to a level that they just could not face the manager to ask for permission. But who was this manager? The manager was a foreigner who had been here with instructions from his employer that we can't allow for a fact, these blacks, and that's really the right word, these Africans, we can't allow them to be all over. We want coffee and we want it to go out there. Yeah. Even if it's size or any other commodity, things were straight. There were no instructions, you can't allow them. So people like my father, I know they missed a lot of things in their lives, family lives, for example. They missed it. When I say that the kind of way people lived changed, now people are working for money. Previously, the locals were not really working for money. There is the barter trade they were doing. For example, if you help somebody to do something, they would give you a goat, and if you work for a long time, maybe they would also come and give you a piece of land. But don't see when the white man came, the issue of paying money came, and therefore life took a new dimension. So that is how now, when the young people in Muranga and other places decided to now go right into the Rift Valley, White Highlands, to now look for employment. the colonizers, using the labor that was coming from the locals, in very many cases is what you can actually call it was forced labor, because the locals who are working in those plantations, they were paid very little money. And then families were given rations. The colonizers would come with, for example, beans and maize flour. Therefore, you can see they were not paid in a manner as to now go take their own care of what they need to buy and so on and so forth. So really, it was determined by the foreigners who are actually they are now the employers. So now what happened when the state of emergency was declared, then the colonizers decided that they have to take all the tribes back to their original homes. Because see, for example, here in central Kenya, we understand that people lived in Murang'a, for example. There were also the others that were living in Kabete. Those were two clusters of where people were actually living before the colonizers came around. So when now colonizers came, they had what we call the White Highlands. They were farming pyrethrum, for example. They were putting dairy cattle there. Then down here there was the coffee. There was also the tea in areas like even Kericho. Even the areas like Rimuru here, there was tea plantations. Down here where we are now, as you have just seen, there was the size of plantations. During the colonial era, our people got very uncomfortable with the way they were being treated by the colonizers, who were in this case actually the British government. Kenya at that time was a colony of the British government. And out of what they had, the Africans had gone through, the issues of now instability started. And when the Africans realized that they were being oppressed too much, that is how the issue of Mau Mau came about, whereby the locals revolted against the white man. So the British government, if you go back to history, declared a state of emergency in Kenya in 1952. So when now the state of emergency was declared in this country, the government decided, the colonial government decided that all these people have to be put in trucks and taken back to where they came from. Because, you see, these are people employed to do milking and herd cattle. Then they are the ones who knew the movements of their bosses. They are the ones who are now being used to kill their bosses. And you see now when you put them together, you kind of control them. That is what happened. My family were put in gishagis, or villages. What was gishagi? Gishagi was establishment done and guarded by what they used to call home guards. Okay, it is an area where several buildings have been done by the people, and they are all supposed to live there. So you can imagine having 2 or 3 villages where everybody is put together. They live in standard kind of houses. In fact, there were huts, there were roundabouts, thatched with glass, and the walls, of course, were mud. You can imagine the settlers who came in. They were taking land as they managed to negotiate with the locals, either by force or by baiting them with small items. Imagine something like a necklace. You know, a lady comes with a necklace and gives the wife of one of the chiefs. And the chief says, oh, this is very fancy thing, it's good. And therefore the man takes the whole 100 acres or something. That is what literally happened. So those farms were now planted with coffee originally by the white men that came from Britain to Kenya. So Sofina Company Limited inherited estates of otherwise generals who had been given these farms by the British government as a token of appreciation after the Second World War. So those people came up with that hangover. So there was no way they were going to treat locals with any respect. I can tell you. I tell you, it was very bad. I have gone through it personally. We were working under pharaohs who were actually banging the table. You know, you are coming there, he has summoned you. You are crashing on the road, running to go and meet him. You get into his office, he's asking, how can I be here waiting for you? You are supposed, even before he tells you why he was calling you, the pharaoh is already banging his table. The pharaoh cannot even stand you sitting in his office. He actually used to call me big-headed because I get in there and I sit on the table. And he starts saying, no, you cannot sit in my office. I've not invited you. But I'm seated there. It was terrible. So this guy grew up in Kenya when the colonial system was just dying. I think it was even clearing Form 4 or thereabout, around 1961, 62. Thereabout. That's when he did his Form 4. So he continues working for a system which does not even give Africans any respect. He was even there when he was a boy. He was there when human adults were being beaten, whipped. So he must have witnessed it. So now in his mind, it cannot die away. So then he comes with mistreating people all through. He mistreated us completely up to the very end. The senior managers were totally discriminating against African pharaohs. I remember the company employed a much younger pharaoh. Before he's even serving 3 years, he's told to take over the estate. And who is going to be his assistant? Myself. And yet, when the time he's coming in, I've actually worked for 6-7 years in the company. So surely, if it was fair, there was fairness, the company was going to pick me. But these fellows, you could not hear it, they could not at any moment allow a situation where a white man was reporting to an African in Sockville. It didn't happen. Not a day. Not a day. But it's because of skin color, again, the company was still favoring them a lot. They were still being seen as expatriates. So they are locals here, but they are being treated as expatriates by the company. These people are getting about twice your salary. You are working for the same thing, but they are being paid double. So it's not good experience for a fact. So even as you try to get into this, they want to ask you to understand that those fellows really totally discriminated us.